All right, here we go. Welcome to the Wholesome Dog. I am your host for tonight's class. If you're joining us for the first time, we are so glad that you're here. Us as the Wholesome Dog, we normally offer mostly free resources for pet parents and professionals on topics ranging from nutrition to health, wellness, behavior, and everything in between. So we like to have lots of conversations with amazing professionals in the industry and learn more just about not only products, but how we can keep our dogs healthy and why those things are important. If this is not your first time joining us, I'm probably a new face for you. I have had the pleasure of giving a talk about nutrition and behavior, but I'm not your usual host. Ms. Julie Lynn could not join us tonight, and so I'm stepping in on her behalf. This is my third class that I'm hosting with everyone, so hopefully this all goes well. The class is indeed being recorded and will be posted to our YouTube channel tomorrow for watching. If you can't be with us the entire night, if you missed anything beforehand, feel free to hang in there in the YouTube for that to be posted later. And throughout the conversation, we will be taking listener questions throughout the presentation. So if you have any question throughout anything, by all means, jump in, type it into the chat. We do ask that you keep yourself on mute, but use the chat option to throw a chat in, and then I will address that over to our guest. So today, our guest is Dr. Christine Colamonico, and she is the founder of Jope. Dr. Christine brings global expertise to animal health with a background in veterinary practice in Europe, pharmaceutical sales, and business development in the USA. She co-founded Jope, a pet wellness company specialized in science-based pet nutraceuticals. That was a mouthful. Her educational journey includes studies at Toulouse Veterinary School, France, and further training at esteemed institutions such as Cornell, CSU, LSU, OSU, and Melbourne University. Dang, girl, that is a lot of school. Dr. Christine founded Jope with it was a deeply personal journey for her. She was inspired by her companion Pepsi, who I'm sure we'll hear more about, who suffered from osteoarthritis, or OA, as sometimes we refer to it too. This experience drove her to create an evidence-based, we love that, pet wellness company that would elevate industry standards through scientific research, innovative ingredients, and stringent manufacturing processes. So thank you so much for being with us, Christine.
Well, thank you for having me, Wendy and Stephanie, and of course, everybody that will be joining us tonight on the Wholesome Dog.
Yes. So you specialize in mobility for dogs. So what is mobility, and why is that important for every pet parent to be aware of?
So, overall, our company is focused on pet wellness, but we started with a focus on mobility because mobility is really the core of healthy living and lifestyle alongside diet. And this is where, if mobility is not something that we pay attention to over time, it is possible that it will decrease. And when a pet or a human isn't able to move around as comfortably as they once did, that impacts their quality of life. And so we felt as veterinarians that it was one of the main points we needed to address. And unfortunately, not everybody is aware of the importance of starting early when it comes to caring for your joints, which allows you to be mobile. I had to learn it the hard way with Pepsi, like you said. He is actually the first, basically my best friend. He was my dog growing up, and he was the first person, dare I say, to show me how really impactful damage to the joint can be and how much it can change the life you're living.
Absolutely. So I'm 34 years old, and I'm noticing that my knees are starting to hurt. Like, that is too young for that to happen, first of all. But it definitely has impacted my life in the smallest of ways. And I can only imagine how, if I don't address that now, should have been addressing it probably sooner, how much that can snowball into a different effect. I also have a 14-year-old Schnauzer, and he moves pretty well, but I notice little things. He kind of slips a little bit more, or when he's standing, his legs kind of splay out a little bit more. And I'm like, is that something going on? So I do understand the little things that might be happening. And something that obviously we should be looking at into our older dogs. I think that we often think that mobility issues are something that only older dogs deal with, or dogs who have experienced an injury, but I don't think that's true. Do you have other thoughts around that?
Well, what you're saying is very interesting. So one of the, I guess, how would you say that? Like ideas that we all believe is true is that with age comes a decrease in your ability to move around, a decrease in energy, but that is actually not true. Like getting old is not a disease, and you should be able to age gracefully and feeling well. So we do think, generally speaking, of joint issues or a decrease in mobility for older patients, older dogs, older people. But mobility is something that can affect a lot of different populations. And there are, especially let's focus on our canine population, there are certain breeds, for example, that have a predisposition. What does that mean? That means that they're more likely later in their life or even sooner to have joint disease or something going on with their joints. And contrary to humans, where arthritis mostly affects population that are more senior, in the canine population, maybe because they don't live as long as we do, or maybe because they grow faster or they're more active, joint disease and joint issues actually can start much sooner than we would think. So there's 2 out of 10 dogs over 1 that have or will have joint disease. So that's actually a very high number. And obviously, as they age, the likelihood of that happening is higher. So there's, it's actually 8 out of 10 dogs over 7 that have arthritis. And sometimes because arthritis can either be diagnosed with, for example, an X-ray. So you see changes in the joint. And so your veterinarian would diagnose your dog as having arthritis, but it can also be seen with signs, so clinical signs of arthritis, but you don't always catch it. And clinical signs are not correlated to the changes that you will see on a radiograph, which is a bit weird. So you can have changes on the radiograph, so changes in the structure of the joint that will be very different from what your dog is expressing. So they could have big changes, but show very little changes or very little sign of arthritis, for example. So I think this is where it gets very tricky, is you should be very proactive in caring for your dog's joints to allow for optimal mobility, because young dogs can have joint issues without you knowing, and dogs are also very good at hiding it. Hopefully I answered the question and didn't go too much off track.
Take us on as many tangents as you want, because that's what we're here for tonight. So it sounds like maybe certain breeds, for sure, we need to have an extra care for this. I'm going to guess most of those breeds might be larger dogs, but also, and again, I wanted to learn as much tonight along with the presentation as much as possible. But I know, I would think larger dogs, they have heavier bodies, so their joints will probably be impacted. But what about small dogs? I mean, we see things like luxating patellas and a lot of like Chihuahuas and Terriers and things like that. But I think that's probably more ligament versus joint. Like, what's the difference between all of those sorts of body parts?
So very good comments. Often we think about the large breed dogs that will have issues, for example, Labradors with hip dysplasia, Great Danes, a lot of these bigger dogs. And like you were saying, we do see smaller dogs that have certain types of joint conditions. And actually, luxating patella is one. You also have, so basically all dogs that have a stunted growth, meaning their growth is relatively limited. So for example, Frenchies, Corgis, where they don't grow very tall. And they are what we call chondrodystrophic breeds, where their growth is just different from a large breed dog, for example. And so they are at risk of having certain types of joint disease as well. And certain dogs who are, for example, longer, I would say, I guess, like the Corgis, they can have this disease as well. So there's actually a very broad population at risk of having some sort of joint condition. And we don't always think about these smaller dogs, but the Frenchies have become the most popular dogs in the US, and they certainly can have different types of joint conditions. And to, I guess, answer the question in a more like just a recap, is really every dog can be at risk of having joint issues. Like we saw, 2 out of 10 dog over one. And if you have a breed that is known to have certain type of joint disease, then obviously you would want to be extra careful. And when caring about mobility, I think one thing that is important is, yes, supplement is important, diet is too, and also adapting the activity you're doing. For example, not letting. I have a brother in France, and he has a Frenchie whose big thing is to jump when we open champagne, and so that is very bad for Frenchies to just like, he literally goes up and down and up and down and up and down. And so we had to educate the kids in the family to be like, this is not good for Richie. We have to try to keep him from jumping so much, because over time he could really hurt himself. And so keeping in mind that activity should also be tailored to your dog, whether it's breed or physical capabilities too. So I think that is also important to remember, is that mobility has to have a comprehensive approach, and there's a lot of different components to a healthy mobility.
Absolutely. What are some other things that pet parents can do to make sure that mobility is kept in mind, like whether it's restricting exercise at a certain age, not doing, like maybe not running with the dog until a certain age, spaying and neutering? Like, what are just some general tips for anyone who, just other new things that a pet parent should consider?
Regarding mobility specifically, or health overall?
So how, like, because I know there's many different things that can affect mobility. So for example, you kind of mentioned like the jumping for certain breeds might be too much, but what about like age? Should certain ages limit the exercise? Like, for example, I've heard a lot of, if you have a young puppy, you shouldn't go running with them because of the impact on their joints before their growth plates close, could really damage those joints. So what are some other things along with that sort of recommendation, just to keep joints well oiled and that mobility long lasting?
It's so what I'm gonna give is more like general pointers in which categories of care to provide to your dog you should focus on. But every dog is different, and so one of the big thing we believe in, me and my co-founder, is really also personalizing your treatment plan to your dog. So for example, Wendy with Harry, I know you're combining different modalities to keep him comfortable, right? So he's a 14-year-old, correct, lab, or am I aging him and he is going to be?
He's actually 15 and a half.
Okay, so see, I gave him 1 year less because he looks fantastic.
I appreciate it.
But so, for example, for Harry, I know Wendy is combining different modalities, so different supplements. She's also keeping him on a healthy activity level for his age. So the big things to look for are really a healthy diet. So identifying the needs of your dog, and that's where I do think working with a veterinary nutritionist or somebody that has experience in nutrition is important. So you're making sure, whether you're choosing, to home cook or to buy freeze dry or feed raw, like whatever your preference is, try to make sure that you're giving your dog something that will benefit them for their life stage, their breed, and their daily activity. Keeping a dog active. So activity is always a yes, but how you do it is important. The general guideline, like you said, puppies, they're very agitated, they're very active, but they cannot go for long runs because that will not be beneficial to their growth of the cartilage and of the formation of their bones. They also have a tendency to be very active, but for short period of time. So they'll go running, they'll come back, but they can't really go for long periods of time. They just don't have the energy for the endurance. So adapting older, more senior dogs, if they are starting to slow down, you should really think about keeping them active often, but adapting the intensity to their abilities and to their body. And over time, you might be able to increase a little bit the intensity of it, But really, one of the things that will help with the more senior dog is regular activity throughout the day. So when we have clients saying, my dog is really having trouble getting up after long periods of lying down, during the day, as much as possible, the recommendation would be, help them get up and then have them walk, even if it's 5 minutes, a few blocks, like just short duration, but frequent, and intensity should start mild and then increase with the dog's progress. And I do think working with a veterinarian, obviously I am a vet, so we spend years, and earlier you were reading about my credentials and the schools I went to. I mean, there's a reason you spend like 8 years to study veterinary animal health, is because we do learn a lot and we really care about what we do. So I think for certain category of our canine friends, it is worth spending some time talking with veterinarians or veterinary professional to understand at this life stage, this is where I need to be, this is what I need to do. My dog won't be able to do the exact same activity, but he should still be active. He should still be happy, or she should still be active and happy. And they really should be able to enjoy their golden years. There's a reason we call them golden, right? Is that they should be fun, they should be still great. Like, old doesn't mean you have to be miserable and just lying all day. You should be happy, you should still be out there. Like, age is just a number, as my grandfather would love to say. Age is not a disease, in my opinion. And so we should really just be healthy as long as possible, and same for our canine friends.
Heck yeah. So it sounds a lot like prevention is the key here. Feeding a fresh food diet, whatever the preference for the pet parent might be, is going to help. Exercise is going to help. Hearing that number of 2 out of 10 dogs over the age of 1 suffers from some sort of mobility issue, that's pretty high. So would you recommend starting dogs on certain supplements? And I mean, obviously we haven't gotten into your specific supplement, but is it ever too early, I guess, to start our dogs on some sort of supplementation for mobility health?
I think, when puppies or kittens, let's stick with puppies, but when they're puppies, they're still growing. And I think giving a supplement before their growth is finished is not necessary per se. But once they are fully grown, so for large breed dogs, it can be as early as 6 months of age, and smaller breed dogs, 12 months of age, you can start giving a high quality joint supplement if you want to. And I do think I would recommend it alongside a healthy diet and healthy exercise. And again, why is that? Is really because dogs are active. They are always jumping. They're always doing something. If they have a breed predisposition, their likelihood of having some sort of joint problem down the road is higher. But every dog will be jumping and moving around, and that does put regular, constant, daily pressure on the joint. And so in the joint, there's there's bone, and then between the two bones, there's like this cushiony part, which is cartilage. And when cartilage is damaged, there really no reconstruction of that cushiony part. And so if you start having bone to bone interaction, that's when it becomes very painful. And this is where the cushiony part in between the bone, it will be impossible to replace. So that cushioning part is something you really want to care for, and that is the cartilage. So the sooner you can start caring for it, the better the outcome for your dog in the long term. And it's not like, it's not like supplements. So obviously I really believe in our supplement. I think it is a great product, and I know you've used it, Wendy, too. It will not fix everything. If you give our supplement, but you don't pay attention to what your dog eats and you don't pay attention to what they're doing, I cannot say that there's no miracle product. But if you are wanting to be proactive, I do think supplements have how do you say it? Their spot, have a role to play in early care. And I guess I don't love prevention. Like, I'm trying to avoid the word prevention, because preventing would sound like, oh, we're stopping it from happening, which is not really what we can do. But we can delay the time it will happen, and we can try to give them a healthy cartilage and healthy joints for as long as possible.
I love that you clarified that.
I went on a tangent.
We love
Well,
tangents.
that's okay. And if I can just jump in and say, I started utilizing Jope after my dog had gone through cancer surgery, and as a result of it, didn't bounce back the way he was before. My dog has always been really active. He was my son's service animal. So his demands on his body have been greater than a lot of dogs in general. I've always been very proactive in taking care of him, but after he had a thymoma surgery, where they basically cut him from his neck to his stomach, that rehabilitation process took forever. And he really wasn't even stable for 6 weeks. So at 12 and a half, he lost all of his physicality trying to heal. And so getting him back to a point where he was actively running and playing and doing things like that just didn't seem like a possibility to me until I started working with Christine and utilizing Jope. And that intervention of adding Jope to his diet, including raw feeding, but also working with his veterinarian, who Christine knows, and employing things like acupuncture and red light therapy and chiropractic as a total solution, I saw a turnaround. Now, because I am so, I don't want to say it this way, but I'm going to say it this way, because I am so anal retentive in taking care of my pets, especially Harry, I could notice immediately the effect that Jope had on him. And working with Christine, I did do a lot of filming so that Christine would be able to see the improvements in him. And the improvements were drastic. It went from him being able to get up and move around and kind of feel comfortable in his body, to slowly walking, to slowly, I won't say running, but he, jogging and stuff, and going up and down the stairs very easily. Those changes took place within a 6 to 8 week period, I would say. And what I've learned from this is that going forward, the next puppy that I have, I will utilize Jope at an earlier point in his or her life, because I can see just the benefits that it's made at his age. I can only imagine the benefits it would have long term.
And that's also, very, yeah, no, and thank you for bringing that up. And one of the reason we chose the ingredients in our chews is we actually have an ingredient with 2 studies in young healthy dogs, Labradors, actually, Wendy. So, a younger version of Harry. And it showed that it helps with recovery rate, performance, and also decreasing inflammatory markers linked to normal daily activity. And so with this data behind the ingredients in our chews, that's why I do feel comfortable saying, if you want to make sure you're doing everything you can and being proactive, this product that we have is based on science. So we say evidence-based, meaning we use data of studies to formulate our product. And I do think that if any other ingredients, this is the only ingredient with studies in a healthy dog. And so if there's one supplement that you should use, it's one with UC2, because there's actually studies. Other ingredients don't have studies in young healthy dogs. It is really hard to show benefits when dogs are healthy, because obviously there's not as much symptoms or signs that something is going on. But that is also why we wanted to create a product that would really help improve quality of life regardless of your dog's life stage. So not just for senior dogs, but starting really early. And I take UC2 actually as well, because it exists for humans. And I am very active, as you know, Wendy. We've talked about running. So I run every day. I live in New York, and it's pavement. And so I wanted to be proactive. And after reading all the studies in humans and dogs, I just felt that it would not be a waste of my money to invest in my future health. And so that's why I'm doing it. And it's not a drug. So I don't have to worry about side effects, about those types of problems. And so I am taking it too, because I really want to, do what I say. So if I'm putting something out there for dogs and I really believe it's going to make them better, I am willing to do the same for me and invest also in my well-being later. And I think that's very important. So I do like it when you say that. And I don't like it just because I have a joint supplement company. I like it because I really honestly think it's the smartest thing to do. to ensure that you can live long, healthy life, which is what we all want, right? So I appreciate you sharing that.
And if I'm correct, isn't your partner known to actually eat the Jope pieces as well?
He does, yeah. He wants to also have, great joints and shiny coats with our omega-3s. So he's just, I just have to remind him that we do need to keep it for dogs.
Can't eat all the supply.
Exactly.
So yeah.
What are some early signs? So I know a lot of what we just talked about is prevention, or not prevention, but delaying the effects of aging the cartilage in our joints. But say, for example, someone's kind of already missed that mark. What are some early signs that our dogs are already struggling with some of these mobility issues?
So that's a very good question. And actually, recently I was talking to a veterinarian called Dr. Randy Aronson, who works with us. He uses Jope. His clinic is focused on longevity, and he's really passionate about longevity in dogs. And one thing he was commenting on was that dogs are very good, and cats are very good at hiding, like we were saying, their signs. So unfortunately, that is one of the very tricky part about arthritis. There's not one sign where I can say, if you see that, your dog has OA. So that is challenging because there's actually so many different signs that can point towards OA, but could also point towards something else. So the general, I mean, obviously if your dog is limping, that likely means there's something going on with their limb. Is it a joint or something else? Hard to say, but so limping would probably be like a pretty clear sign that an x-ray would be warranted, or that's one of the more obvious ones. Difficulty jumping too, so anything really mobility related, I think, is worth talking to your veterinarian. I would never recommend just going ahead and doing something without consulting with your veterinarian who knows your dog. Ideally, you'd have somebody that followed your dog from puppyhood through adulthood and then in their golden years, and would be able to say, yes, I agree with you, and put in place a plan to intervene. But I think any mobility related signs, so for example, we were saying limping, difficulty going up and down stairs, like it happened to Harry, difficulty jumping, difficulty in doing the activities they used to do, like for Pepsi, it was difficulty going on runs with me. Those are all signs that something could be going on in their joints. There's also more subtle signs that are not necessarily linked directly to mobility, but for example, decrease in energy, aggressive behavior. So if a dog becomes aggressive, sometimes owners will be, well, I don't understand. He never or she never used to bite or to do this. And it's actually a reaction because they are painful. So changes in behavior can actually mean that there is pain, and that pain could be from arthritis, for example, or another joint disease. Loss in appetite. So anything that basically changes from the usual could certainly mean that there is pain somewhere, and that at least your dog is feeling unwell, and that could be joint related. So unfortunately, I can't give you a precise sign or even a list of symptoms. I just think when your dog starts to be unwell, monitor for maybe 2-3 days. And if it's acute and like your dog can't get up, definitely go directly to see your vet. But if it's something a bit more subtle and you're not too sure, just maybe write it down, take a video, take a video day 1, take a video day 2, and make sure that you're following the progress and see if it's getting worse, if it's getting better. And also documenting really early, as soon as you see the first changes, is important because it gives you a reference point too. So as soon as you see something, you can then show it to your veterinarian, you can show it to another professional, but it just gives you a reference, and then you can also see evolution over time. So I do think it would be worth just monitoring as soon as possible. I think being too careful is probably a good thing, generally speaking, with animals, because they can't talk. So if you don't look out for their well-being, they won't necessarily be able to tell you what's going on. So I would be more of the team, mom bear, or I don't know how you say that, but
Mama bear, yeah,
very careful. Mama bear, yeah, with your pup or your cat, because they can't speak and tell you what's going on.
I really love that you pointed on the behavior stuff. So I don't think I've truly mentioned in tonight's video, but I am a certified behaviorist, and I've been training dogs for 11 years and been a certified behaviorist for about 4 now. And that's usually one of the first things that I'm talking to an interested client who wants to book some private lessons with me. If they say anything about this behavior came out of nowhere, or especially if it has to do with aggression, I'm like, before you even book a lesson with me, go to your vet. It's not uncommon, like you mentioned, whenever we have any sort of inflammation anywhere, that's one of the reasons why it could be manifesting in aggressive behavior, because they don't feel good. They don't want to be touched. They don't want to be bothered, anything like that. Also, as a trainer, when I'm trying to get a dog to like sit, or a dog who doesn't like to do sit stays or down stays, they don't like to walk up to a door and sit. Okay, this is, especially if it's a large breed dog, that's one of my first recommendations. Either let's chill out on how often we're asking this dog to sit, or how long we're asking this dog to sit, and make sure that those joints are healthy before we continue to do this, because sometimes it's not a choice that the dog is making. It's a consequence of that physical pain somewhere in that body. So I'm really glad that you mentioned that. I also love that you mentioned like documenting. That's something that I've been doing with Sully, because I've been seeing his back starting to curve a little bit around his hips. So I've been documenting and taking pictures anytime he stands a little bit funky, so that my vet can see, because sometimes our dogs don't do the things in a vet appointment that we see at home, because it's such a different environment. I love that. What are some other, like Wendy kind of mentioned a couple of different modalities that she's worked with Harry for. What are some other examples of modalities to keep our dogs healthy? Like, red light therapy, acupuncture, chiropractor, do all of those kind of fit into joint health in some sort of way? Or are there other ones that we haven't mentioned either?
I think, there's a lot of different alternative therapies, and that also depends. I've heard about a lot. I haven't used them all. There's like ozone therapy too. With Pepsi, what we did was laser therapy and massage therapy. We also did, swimming, like water activity, basically. So underwater treadmill. We just walked on the beach with him, in the water, made sure that he was going. Basically, the water is great because it allows them to still mobilize all their muscles without putting the pressure on the joints. So I'm a pretty big fan. I know it's not always easy, but I do think that is one of the like very good activities you can do. You mentioned, what else were you mentioning? Light therapy too. I know can be very beneficial. Acupuncture I think is great. I do it personally. I haven't used it in patients, but I do see vets who use it very successfully. And I think with, and then there's also obviously, drugs, like certain drugs that are very helpful in certain acute cases, newer drugs that came out more, how do you say that? Like drugs that were here before. So there's just like a lot of different modalities. Every dog might react a bit differently, and depending on which direction you're taking, I think every dog just might have a different like reaction. So don't get discouraged. Again, talk to your veterinarian to see what would be the best path. I think it's worth exploring like the alternative therapies. So anything that's not drug related, if you have an interest and if you think it could be beneficial to your dog, because that can certainly have benefits with fewer side effects than certain drugs, for example. And then sometimes drugs are necessary if it means better quality of life as well. So I'm more of an integrative approach, where I think for each patient, depending on their needs, what you really want to focus on is quality of life. And you have so many tools, which is great. And then it's really finding the tools that will work for your patient or for your dog. And unfortunately, there's not like a one size fits all. But I do think everything you mentioned are very good options to look into. And then, continuing the conversation, and don't get discouraged if on your first attempt you don't see improvements in your dog. And Wendy very well noted that for Harry, she saw improvements, for example, after 6 to 8 weeks, which I think is a good timeline to have in mind when you're trying alternative therapies instead of drugs. Like drugs will act very quick, they'll see results very quickly, but other more natural, softer, quote unquote, approaches will take more time to see results. And it's not always easy when you see your dog struggling. to remain patient and hopeful and not just, you know, want to abandon ship, I guess. It would be one way to finish my sentence.
For sure. Great. So I know that you've kind of mentioned Jope a little bit. Wendy has given her personal testimony to it and how beneficial it was for Harry, but can you tell us more about it? Because I think from my little research that I looked into it, it is a joint supplement that is way different from anything else on the market. So can you kind of explain what exactly it is, and then we'll just kind of take it from there.
Okay, happy to. So Jope stands for Joy of Pets, and our first product is a mobility joint supplement for dogs. And the reason we're very different from any other joint supplement on the market is we do not use glucosamine and chondroitin as our main active ingredients, which 95 at least % of the companies out there do. So we took a very different approach, and what we did is we reviewed all the studies between the year 2000 and today, and we looked at the robustness of the studies and then their conclusions, and we selected the 3 active ingredients which we felt had the most robust data behind it. And when I say we felt, we actually read every study, categorized them, organized them, and then looked at the pyramid of evidence from Yale Law School, or not Law School, Yale School, sorry. And it's basically a pyramid which shows that depending on the type of study you have, the conclusion will be more or less powerful. And so we chose ingredients that had the most scientific, robust data behind it with positive conclusions. And that led us to choosing UC2 collagen, omega-3s from fish oil, and curcumin. And I actually used that combination with my dog too. That was when I was in vet school. It was a very progressive approach. I started with UC2 and then wanted to combine ingredients that would complement UC2's mode of action. So we are very different, where we're not using glucosamine and chondroitin, but we're using UC2 collagen, omega-3s from fish oil, and then curcumin. The other key differentiators is that we are veterinarians. So we're 2 veterinarians who formulate the product. We have every single one of our batches that is third-party lab tested. So we take our chews, we send it to a lab, and they test for the guaranteed analysis of our label for our active ingredients. So basically every single chew you get will have at least the amount of active ingredients, UC2, curcumin, and omega-3 that we have on our label. And then we also selected a formula where we had very few inactive ingredients, because we don't believe in giving everything and anything to our dogs. And we have 80% organic ingredient, which we haven't actually yet displayed on our label, but we are working to get certified. So we have a formula that is as healthy as possible and with organic ingredients. And we make our chews in the US too, in Michigan. So in case people were wondering. So those are kind of the main differentiator for Jope. And we launched a double-blinded placebo-controlled trial as well, which makes us among the 5 only companies in the US that have launched such a study, because it takes a lot of resources and time to do. And I think we're definitely one of the younger companies to do this for a product.
That's really exciting. I know a lot of us in the Wholesome Dog, we love science. We love science-based, evidence-based things. Can you share a little bit of what was found in that double-blind study?
So we don't have the result yet. It's an independent animal hospital. We're enrolling 60 dogs, and we're giving them either placebo or Jope, and then we will follow their progress over 90 days, and we will have a veterinary assessment and also ground force plate, meaning it's a device where you have the dog stand or walk and you measure the pressure they put on their joints. So if they are painful, they won't be able to put as much pressure on their paw, and if they feel well, they'll put a good amount of pressure on their paws. And so that's a way to objectively assess without bias the benefits of a product in dogs with mobility issues. So this is happening right now. It takes a very long time, and I hope we have results published by next year, but I don't know that I can guarantee that either.
That's so exciting.
But we will share when it comes out.
Heck yeah, that's very, very exciting. You mentioned UC2 collagen, and I think that collagen is kind of one of those really big buzzwords that goes around in the human beauty industry, obviously with dogs. Can you kind of explain a little bit more what UC2 collagen is? Because it sounds like there's lots of different types of collagen.
So happy to explain. Collagen is certainly gaining in popularity. There are different types of collagen, and depending on the use you intend for them, the difference between the collagen might be more significant or less significant. So if you're thinking like hair, skin, you probably can use a broader spectrum of collagen. But when it comes to joint, UC2 collagen stands for undenatured type 2 collagen. And that is very different from any other collagen out there. The reason it's different is that in order to have undenatured collagen, you can't heat the cartilage to extract the collagen. So most of the collagens out there, they are hydrolyzed collagen, meaning they were heated, the cartilage was heated in order, so brought up to higher temperature in order to extract the collagen. The result of that is that the collagen breaks down and isn't actually kept in the natural form we have in our body or dogs have in their bodies. And that matters a lot because UC2, when it's extracted using low heat, so it really preserves the natural form that, again, any animal with cartilage has, it keeps specific areas of that structure, which are called epitopes. And these epitopes allow for UC2 to travel. When it's ingested, it travels through the gut. And instead of being absorbed, so instead of going into the system, it actually interacts with a very specific part of the immune system that is in the gut called Peyer's patches. And what it does is that it activates the immune system to lead to two benefits. So it activates the immune system, which leads to healthier immune response over time. And it also helps support cartilage production at the joint level. So the benefits of UC2 is really that it helps create a healthier joint environment and help with a healthier joint structure. A lot of the other ingredient out there, including hydrolyzed collagen or glucosamine and chondroitin, they don't have this mode of action because they're heated and they don't have these epitopes. And so they're not able to provide this dual mode of action. And we're not too sure how they work. So for them, the hypothesis is that maybe they bring building blocks, but it's kind of, think about a house that's burning, for example, right? So the house burning is the joint burning because the joint is being damaged. If you bring building blocks, so let's say you're bringing bricks to build a house that is on fire, do you really think the bricks are going to help the fire to put out the fire? You're basically just going to continue fueling the fire and the house is going to continue to be destroyed. But with UC2, you're really basically stopping the burning. So you're going to the source and you're preventing the burning from continuing. And you're also bringing something to help repair the cartilage and help support cartilage production. So you're basically stopping the fire in the house in a way. It's illustrative, okay? And then you're also helping repair, in a sense, that house. It's illustrative, so bear with me. It's like I'm trying to give just illustration that can really speak. Obviously, it's not like you're not really stopping everything and rebuilding the house because that would mean you're curing it. But that is kind of the idea with our product, is that we're really addressing the core issue instead of just trying to throw things at it, hoping it will fix the joint, which is not possible.
Heck yeah.
Hopefully that made sense. I tried it. I don't know if it worked.
No, that was a great illustration for sure, because it's not just about giving the body things. The things that we give the body have to be able to be used. And as a certified nutritionist, I also talk to a lot of clients about like synthetic vitamins and minerals and how when we're doing those sorts of things, the cofactors and the digestive enzymes that are normally found along with those vitamins in whole foods not given. And so you're giving the body the little things, the tools that it needs, but you're not giving them like the instruction manual or all the little nuts, bolts, and screws to really have the body utilize all of those things. So it definitely speaks a lot to there's there's a mechanism, there's a biological system that has to happen, and the collagen sounds like it's doing, when it's extracted the right way, that's when it's most beneficial.
Correct. Yes.
So you talked a little bit about the ingredients and how your ingredients are a little, I think, quite a bit different from the majority of supplements out there, which I think is amazing. It's one, evidence and science-based, which is great. But two, another thing that people can try in case they did try the chondroitin and glucosamine supplements and those didn't work, there's other things that we can do out there. I talked about your testing and how everything's third-party tested, so I like that. That's really cool. Can you talk a little bit about the sourcing of some of these ingredients, whether it's your active ingredients or your inactive ingredients, and what sort of like principles you guys have a company as far as sourcing goes?
So, we're very conscientious of the environment, and ideally we would like to have a true 100% made in the US. However, that is impossible because of some of the ingredients we chose. So, we prioritize ingredients that are made in the US when we can. Certain ones, for example, are turmeric. We cannot have sourced in the US, but we have a certificate of analysis, we have a certificate of origin. And so we're very careful as to the ingredients we use and where they come from. So they're tested when they arrive in our facility. They're then released. If they pass the quality test, they go into our product, and then we test our product again. We really try to limit anything from outside of US, South America, or Europe when possible. But again, turmeric, curcumin, for example, you can't find that in the US. So we do have to source it from Asia. And we make sure that every ingredient we have is as high quality as possible. And for example, UC2 collagen that does come is made in the US. It comes from chicken that are used for human consumption. So we're not killing chickens in order to extract the collagen either. And so there is, for every one of our ingredient, a certificate of analysis and a certificate of origin that we have, and that we know the ingredients that are going into our chews. And then our chews are also tested and submitted for analysis as well.
You mentioned that the collagen comes from chicken. If I have a dog that has a chicken allergy or chicken intolerance, is this going to affect the dog in that sort of way?
So that's a good question. The UC2, actually, as I was saying, first of all, there's a very small amount in our chews, so it's 20 milligram per chew. But the more interesting part is that UC2 is actually not absorbed. So it's not like your dog will be absorbing the UC2. So it will stay in the digestive system and is excreted when they go to the bathroom. And also the other point is that when a dog has an allergy to chicken, they're usually allergic to a protein that is present in the meat, so in the muscle, versus type 2 collagen is actually a protein mostly present in cartilage. And so for a dog to become allergic to a protein, they need to be exposed regularly at high levels of that protein. In the case of type 2 collagen, it's very unlikely that a dog would be eating enough cartilage to have been exposed and have a sensitivity. Of course, if you are worried, you can stay away from it, but we have a lot of dogs who are taking it, although they do have allergies, and collagen is a very particular type, again, of protein from the entire chicken. So I would say I would feel very comfortable if you are not worried to use it. Obviously, if you're worried, it's your choice. Ultimately, I will never push something on you, but I would say I would feel very confident that your dog would probably be fine. Sometimes there is some diarrhea with the fish oil, but that resolves after 1 or 2 days. But it's to be expected with a bit of a more oily base in our product too.
For sure. Okay. Well, I think we're just about to hit our time. Christine, is there anything else that you want to mention about Jope that we haven't already covered?
I think we covered it all. Thanks for your great questions. I do want to point out that the Wholesome Dog offers a discount for people interested in trying Jope. We do offer 100% satisfaction guarantee too. So what does that mean? It means that if you want to try Jope, but your dog for some reason won't eat it, or you're not seeing results, we will give you your money back. We have a very low percentage of person asking for refunds, so we're pretty confident in our product, but we offer that because we believe that if we can't help your dog, you should be able to get your money back to find something that will help your pup. So we are in the business of helping dogs, not just making money. And so if you're not satisfied, we're more than happy to refund you, and you get a discount through the Wholesome Dog, and you help support an awesome team that puts a lot of time and energy in educating others, which I think is fantastic.
Indeed. Is that provided through a discount code? Wendy, do you have that discount code?
We do have the discount code, and it is on our website as well, and I'll post it in the chat for everybody.
Perfect. All right. Well, I think that is everything that we have for tonight. Christine, where can people find you, connect with you, or learn even more about the product?
So, obviously through you guys, but they can also email me at christine@petjope.com. They can go on our website, petjope.com too, read about it, ask any question. We have a fantastic team of customer care person. One of them was a veterinary nurse, so she is very knowledgeable, and we care a lot about the information we provide. So, if you have questions, there's a lot of articles on the blog, but you can certainly get our product on our website using the Wholesome Dogs code. Ask any question. Every email will get a personalized response, and we respond within 12 to 24 hours because we care. And then we're also on Amazon, but I do prefer it if you buy it on our website because it's just better overall. So I think that sums it up. Oh, and also at veterinary clinics, obviously, we're partnering with veterinarians too. So if you have a veterinarian, you want to mention Jope, see if they're interested, we do partner with vets, and we would love to get to know more veterinarians out there. So don't hesitate to spread the word. It does help when we're a young company and self-funded company too. So that would be appreciated.
Very good. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Christine. That was amazing. I know I learned a lot, especially about the collagen and why that's being used in your product and what it is, and that there's many different more types of collagen to consider. So everyone, if you guys enjoyed tonight, don't forget the Wholesome Dog offers lots of free classes. We do have another fun one coming up. I believe it is next week. Yes, on the 30th. We will be joined by the amazing Dr. Odette Suter to talk about how to achieve a healthy gut microbiome for your pet. If that class is also something that you guys are interested, you can find more information about it at thewholesomedog.com. Read all about the Wholesome Dog, but if you want to see the list of any upcoming classes, just hit the classes tab up at the top, and you can sign up for those classes as well. So I hope you guys enjoyed tonight and learned a lot. Don't hesitate to reach out to Christine and her people at her company to learn even more. And I know I have a bag of Jope coming in for my kiddos. So I'm really excited to try it and to see all the amazing benefits that I know Sully will have from that. So with that, you guys have a fantastic night, and we'll see y'all at the next class.
Thank you.